What's up, everybody? I'm Alan Seslowsky, and thanks for tuning back into Roster Watch. Each week, this video will provide you with sneaky $0 pickups that you can add to your fantasy roster today after the first run of waivers is executed. The second run of waivers is often how you can find an edge in fantasy football. Not only the players that your league mates missed in the first run of waivers, but also the players that they cut from their rosters that you could later pick up. It's time to cut those marginal backup quarterbacks, tight ends, and depth wide receivers that you would never start in your fantasy playoffs anyway. Roster Watch wants you to load up on your fantasy bench with one injury away running backs and league-winning upside players. In addition, it's time to look at which defenses have plus matchups in the fantasy playoffs. Let's start with one of the defenses that has a good schedule moving forward, and that's the Seattle Seahawks defense. They're 38% rostered, so there is a chance they are available in your league. Roster Watch's own Byron Lambert has beat the drum this time of year for consolidating your roster. Adding a defense that has future positive matchups, future plus matchups, is exactly that kind of roster move. As we just talked about briefly a second ago, it is time to cut backup quarterbacks, wide receivers, and tight ends that are unlikely to crack your starting lineup moving forward. Depth is no longer important. It is time to pick up defenses that you will start in your fantasy playoffs. Some of the marginal real-life defenses like Seattle may be good starts in fantasy football, mainly due to their matchup. Teams facing bad offensive lines or below-average quarterbacks are ideal targets. That's where Seattle comes into play. After Week 12, Seattle's next three matchups are against the Giants, the Jets, and the Washington football team. All positive matchups for Seattle, and they could create some turnovers and turn those into points. Take a look on your waiver wire, see if Seattle's there, and add them to your roster right away for a $0 bid. Next, let's talk about Jalen Hurts, the backup quarterback on the Philadelphia Eagles, only 1% rostered. We talked about Hurts last week in $0 bidding, and he's still only 1% rostered, so we need to underline him again this week. It is obvious that Carson Wentz is just not playing well. Anecdotally, he looks like Wentz is giving it his all, scrambling under duress, diving headfirst to try to make plays, but he is far from the player who had MVP chatter just a few years ago. His efficiency stats are well below average, with only 6.2 yards per attempt on the season. Another poor half of play, and the team may give Jalen Hurts a try. We saw what Miami did last week with Tua when he had some ineffectiveness in Week 11. The NFL has always been a copycat league, so there is serious bench risk for Wentz from here forward. As a reminder, Hurts, his last year in college, had off-the-charts numbers as a QB rusher at Oklahoma. He rushed for an eye-popping 1,298 yards and 20 rushing touchdowns. Hurts is a true league-tilting upside player at the QB position. Sharp fantasy football players should find a way to roster Hurts for a $0 bid, even in one-quarterback leagues. Last, let's talk about Brian Hill, the backup running back on the Atlanta Falcons, only 7% rostered. If you told us that Todd Gurley would be healthy and not miss any games through the first 12 weeks of the NFL season back in August, there'd be little doubt that Gurley would have been a second-round fantasy pick. Instead, he was a middling third-round pick. Gurley's injury history was likely the driving force to his consensus ranking back before the NFL fantasy season. Though Gurley has stayed amazingly upright so far, his injury history has not changed, and it's an excellent time to roster his backup, Brian Hill. Hill actually outsnapped Gurley in the Falcons' loss last week. If you're a team that has a plausible path to a fantasy championship, adding Hill for a $0 bid makes a ton of sense. The Falcons have a nice matchup with Kansas City in Week 16. It's easy to see the case for Hill as a player that projects for double-digit touchdowns in that game regardless of Gurley's health. Should Todd Gurley's injury luck run out, Hill is easily a top 20 running back the rest of the way. Okay, Roster Watch Nation, that's it for today. Remember to like and subscribe to get notifications when we go live, and leave us a comment in the video. We will comment back. Until next time, goodbye.